far free and lover's soul. Come ride with me to the distant shore. We won't hesitate to break down the garden gate. There's not much time left today. Life is a highway, I wanna ride it all night long. If you're going my way, well, I wanna drive it all night long.
Good morning, everyone. First off, I'd just like to get one very, very small formality out of the way. The toilets. Up the stairs between the middle of the arches, all the way through, there's a slight kink to the left, slight kink to the right, and they're right in front of you. Okay, really, really important stuff there. Good morning. For those that don't know me, my name is Mark. I'm one of Rikus's mates. I just need to clarify that, because when the day that he got married to Ricky, I was first confused as his father, and then father-in-law. We had some good chuckles about that. Today we're here to celebrate the life of Rikus, husband to Ricky, son to Mari, father to Caitlin and Alec, and friend to us all. Ricky, Mari, and the family would like to extend a very warm welcome to you all, and to those that have travelled from various parts of the country to join us, and a special welcome to those joining us live stream from overseas. Before we get to the eulogies, I'd like to read a short writing that Rikus wrote, done as only he could have put it. Sorry, I just need to move this out of the way. Yeah, there we go. Allow me to share my story of woe so that you might learn from it and let the same not befall you. Let me set the stage. I was walking down a hallway when I spotted this creature sitting on our ceiling. It goes by the name of Palestes superciliosus. And yes, I did have to practice that several times. Commonly known as a rain spider, and is probably called Dave by his friends. They are fairly common here in South Africa. An earnest estimation of its size is a 2.5 centimetre body with a 12 centimetre leg span, but for the sake of argument, we can simply say that it was bloody massive. Upon discovering said beastie, an idea came to me which seemed brilliant at the time. I would take a picture of the spider, post it on social media, and regale people with a tale of my heroism in the eviction of this creature. I would also throw some sharp barbs at the Australians, as they are always so humbly smug because their country is filled with creatures exclusively designed to kill you. And when a crocodile bites off one of their hands, they would probably just say, "No worries, she'll be all right." Bloody aggravating, if you ask me. I felt I needed them to be showed up a little. To enact my plan, I grabbed my phone and proceeded to take some pictures, none of which came out very well. I needed more detail for that fear-inducing picture I wanted, and for that I needed to get closer. Not a problem. Since it was on the ceiling, I would probably get up our wobbly kitchen steps and stand on them to gain some height. So now I have my phone right in the spider's face and I'm snapping away pictures. It was difficult going because of the wobbliness, and at one point I held down the take picture button a little too long. I learned two very important things at this point. Firstly, if you hold down this button on an iPhone, it starts recording a video. And secondly, which is much, much more important, it turns on the flash. This was not the best time to discover this feature because it directly led to a third discovery, which was that shining an extremely bright light in front of a spider's eyes from a big black box held by a huge hairless ape does not sit well with said spider, and it did not react well. It showed its displeasure by standing up in a threat pose and trying to bolt away at the same time. Unfortunately, the spider miscalculated its leg positions, lost its grip on the ceiling, and succumbed to gravity. This would not have been a problem if the aforementioned hairless ape was not standing directly beneath it on wobbly kitchen steps, trying to snap pictures. To fully appreciate what happened next, aside from my autonomic defecation, you would need a degree in physics and biomechanics, because you would have to calculate what happens when the wobbly steps rapidly accelerate in direction X, the human accelerates in direction Y, include gravity in the equation, and how much the wild flailing and high-pitched screams of the human would affect the outcome. The net result, however, was that my wife found me on the hallway floor, wildly slapping myself, doing the, "Oh dear God, there's a spider on me" dance, and generally acting like an asylum inmate having an episode. For this, she promptly gave me a tongue lashing because I'd woken the baby, which I then had to go and tend to, all the while being on extremely high alert for this monstrous spider who had somehow vanished during this whole episode and whom I was sure was back for vengeance. So I hope you have learned something from this tale, and I would like to add, for all the Australians, thanks to you bloody lot, I now have a twisted ankle, a sprained wrist, and a very bruised ass muscle. I hope you are effing happy now. You can just imagine him saying it, eh? Okay. Okay. Maury, Rikus's mom, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Die môre van 1 Augustus 1981 het ek jou die eerste keer in my arms gehou. 'n Klein mondeltjie mens, my seun. En vir 42 jaar was jy dit, my kind. En nou moet ek totsiens sê. Dit is sekerlik die moeilikste ding wat ek nog ooit moes doen. Life dealt you some serious obstacles. You had to battle issues that most of us cannot even imagine. Yet you just carried on regardless, doing the best you could, employing that wicked sense of your humor. I was in awe of your moral compass. You were always true to your convictions, often making the difficult rather than the easy choice. I am so sorry that you did not live long enough to impart that to Katie and Alec. In your 30s, you did something splendid. You brought Ricky into our lives. And with her, a whole extended family, some living even as far as Germany. It wasn't just you and I at Christmas anymore. We were a family. To my mind, the crowning glory of your achievements, your greatest legacy, Katie and Alec, the two most beautiful and special children imaginable. And in them, you live on. These few words cannot do justice to the life you lived, to how much you loved and how much you cared. Maar dis die beste wat ek vandag kan doen. Totsiens, my kind.
Thank you, Maury. Ricky told me that under the circumstances, she would find it very difficult to stand up here and speak. So her eulogy will be via voice note. And after that, we'll go into another voice note. This one will be from Caitlin, Rikus' daughter.
Dear friends and family, Thank you all for being here today to say farewell to our beloved Rikus. Rikus was not one for small talk. He did not suffer fools gladly, but those who knew him knew that he was actually a teddy bear inside. He was passionate about his beliefs, and if you got him started on an interesting topic, you knew you were in for a 20-minute lecture. Rikus had many varied interests, and he was constantly learning and gaining knowledge. He had a great fondness for agriculture, the sciences, mechanics, and animals. He valued his intelligence greatly. Rikus loved his job at Dariel. He had amazing colleagues, and the culture of the company impressed him so much that he had never been happier in a job. He took great pride in his work and was always prepared to go above and beyond. He took criticism with grace and never passed the blame. He felt appreciated at Dariel. As a friend, Rikus was loyal and dependable. He cared deeply and was always there without hesitation. He greatly enjoyed a good debate and was not afraid to share his opinions even in the face of adversity. His bluntness came across harshly at times, but his passion and love were larger still. There was always a shoulder to lean on and words of advice to be given. If Rikus regarded you as a friend, you knew you were special. When we found out we were expecting our first child, Caitlin, he couldn't have been happier. It was an amazing time, and we would spend hours talking about this little person. He embraced fatherhood with a real love. Finding out we were expecting a boy, Rikus was terrified. He had always struggled forming emotional bonds with other men. He felt that he needed to put up a wall and protect himself. One day, Rikus and Alex shared a moment, a simple look that changed everything. And from then, they had their own special bond. Alec healed something in Rikus and made him a stronger man. Rikus was a wonderful father. He was so proud of Kate and Alec. My greatest sadness is that he will not be here to watch them grow up. But it is our responsibility to keep his memory alive for them. I was just shy of 22 when I met Rikus. Together we grew. We overcame challenges and celebrated victories. We were each other's safe place where we could go with our troubles after a long hard day and feel peace. We had that comfortable love that comes after years of marriage, and our strengths complemented each other. Rikus was my person I could be myself around. My heart aches for all the years we still should have had together, and for a lifetime of watching our children grow up while we grow old. The plans we had, which are now gone. I miss him with every breath I take. I ache to have him with me just one last time, to tell him all the things I've never said, and to feel his warm embrace. Each morning when I open my eyes, there is a pit of emptiness and loss, a sinking feeling. I thank Rikus for all the time we had and all he gave me, for the family and love we shared. There is still so much I could say about my journey with Rikus, but for today, this is all I can bear to say. My request to all of you is do not be afraid to talk about Rikus. Speak his name and celebrate all that he brought into this world. Do not let time or distance keep you apart. With all he had, Rikus was lonely at times. Do not take for granted the people in your lives, because in a blink of an eye, they can be gone. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Katie, and I really miss my daddy, like very, 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 very much. And he was the best daddy to me. He was the best at swimming to me. He was the best in the whole world. Bye.
Ricky, thank you. Katie, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Rikus, pretty sure on the law of averages, this is supposed to be happening the other way around. Taken us a bit by surprise here. I first met Rikus in 2005. We were both at the same function, and he sat down next to me. Damn, he was intimidating. A short while later, we were chatting like two people that had known each other for years. It was the beginning of a wonderful friendship. I said intimidating. In looks and stature, yes. But behind that, he was very, very different. He was just a really, really big guy with the biggest heart and a soft nature. One of the things that I really admired about him was his ability to talk about pretty much anything. His knowledge base was vast, and I often, over the years, found myself seeking his thoughts and advice on various subjects. Some fun, some serious, and there was always time for one of our favorite topics, Star Wars. He was a huge fan. We spent many an hour chatting about that in great detail. Birthday and Christmas prezzies at that time were easy. Anything Star Wars. Rikus was a diverse person. To each one of us, he was something different. A friend, a work colleague, a husband, a son, a father. No matter the role that you encountered him in, his personality could change and adapt to suit the required moment, always giving his best to any situation. One of his heroes was his dad, Dion. I unfortunately never met him. Rikus often regaled me of stories from his youth about his dad. He held him in the highest of esteem. He missed him terribly, and when he passed, and he never ever forgot him. I would wager, Rikus, that it was your dad that greeted you and opened the door on your arrival. The other was his mom, Mari. The loss of a son is something that no parent should ever have to go through. He loved you dearly. I recall fondly how he used to teach you about your bird watching skills, but he had the utmost respect and awe at your knowledge. And then he met Ricky. I will never forget that night. Mr. Intimidator, all stern and serious, and went from criticizing her makeup to puppy eyes and, dare I even say it, even shy at talking to this girl. He was totally smitten by her and wondered if he ever even stood a chance. He did. The relationship blossomed, and in a short time they were engaged, and soon thereafter they married. That day several things happened. He was the happiest man around. He was so happy. He had gotten the girl of his dreams. He also told me in no uncertain terms that if he had anything to do with it, it would be the last time he ever wore a suit. He was most comfortable barefoot, in shorts and a t-shirt. One without holes was an optional extra. Fast forward a few years, and he and Ricky were blessed with two wonderful kids. First Caitlin, and then Alec. At first, he was terrified of becoming a dad, wondering if he was up for the task, wondering if he could cope with these little persons. He soon realized he could, by being himself and dealing and learning in true Rikus style, one step at a time. His little family was the most important thing in his life. Ricky, we are so sorry for your loss. Words fail me at the suddenness of the whole situation. Things are going to be different for you now, but please remember one very important thing. We will all be there to help where we can. As Rikus fondly jested about in his emails, when the you know what hits the fan, phone Mark and Jolene. We'll be there. The last time Jolene and I saw him was at his birthday a few short weeks before his passing. It was a joyous day, with him being surrounded by his little family and some friends. He was in full Bri mode, and the wit and sense of humour he had was on full form. This is the Rikus I will remember. In a minute, I will open the floor to anyone that might like to say a few words. You're more than welcome to come up and say anything. Finally, Mr. Vlok, you were my mate. You were there when we needed you, a sound voice in a time of need, a sounding board to our two boys when it came to computer stuff and life in general. You were a true friend. We love you, and we will miss you terribly. Thank you. If there's anybody that'd like to say a few words, please feel free to come up. I'll give it probably just under a minute, and then I'll come up and carry on.
Good morning, everyone. So, honestly, this doesn't feel real yet. So instead of talking about the lasts, I'd like to talk about the firsts. The first time I've ever had a meeting with Rikus, he was in hospital. And he turned on the camera, and I think me and the other guy in the meeting were like, okay, this is a bit strange. And that's how we got to know him. He was dedicated, not only to his work, but to his family, his mom, Ricky, Katie, Alec. And there's so many instances where you could see it. Just a few stories. So the first time we had a meeting with the client, we were 10 minutes early and I was freaking out because we were late. And he looks at me and he very simply asks, like, are you German? I'm like, I've stopped my tracks. I'm like, my word, how do you know this? He's like, I have a German wife. I had to print on our wedding invites that it will start promptly, if not early, be on time. And he was correct, because while guests were still pouring in, here was Ricky standing ready. When he spoke of his love with Ricky, he always said it was like Beauty and the Beast. And I mean, just looking at them, you can see it. But if you know Rikus, like, in the situation I knew him, you know, like, he can be a bit gruff. But under all of that, he's the biggest teddy bear. And the following story I have to unfortunately say in Afrikaans, and I think maybe just block the children's ears because this will be from Rikus's words. day I met Ricky, I became the second favorite child in my mom's eyes. The day Katie was born, became the third. And when Alex was born, I bliksemed off the podium. One thing you can never misunderstand is if you're in his and Ricky's home, you can never misunderstand something, and that's that their lives revolved around their kids. If he was in a meeting and Katie come up to him, he's like, "Katie, not now." And then he'll mute himself for a few minutes, clearly giving in to what his daughter wanted. When he asked us to house sit, I said yes, thinking, oh, it's just a few dogs. Few dogs, 2 reptiles, well, 3 if you count Noodle, a cat, and we were in no uncertain terms told no creature may die in our house, which is problematic for me because I'm allergic to mosquitoes, and problematic for my husband because he's petrified of spiders. And now we cannot murder either. I think I got a distinct pleasure in life of being a mentee to Rikus. I learned a lot from him. And it was a lot more than a simple thing of how to code, but it was very much a way to live. And I can remember him and Nikuyan, when Nikuyan was trying to sleep train his daughter, he was like, he just couldn't do it. He couldn't let his children cry. And I'm so honored to have called him my friend. I think it will be a very long time before this feels real. I'd like to just finish off by saying something, and I don't know if he ever told Ricky, but his distinct goal in raising his children were he needs to teach Alec, how to defend his sister, always defend his sister. Because first of all, if a boy can break Katie's heart and survive Katie, certainly won't survive Alec, and definitely wouldn't survive Rikus. And the final line of defense was always Ricky. Because let's face it, you can't cross it and survive. So even though Rikus isn't here in the defense line, know that we'll always be, and know that they'll no one will get through them in the first place. We love you. Love you. Thank you.
So, Rikus was difficult. When we first met, we didn't like each other very much. And it didn't last very long, because right after this had happened and I approached him to kind of calm the ruffled waters, we started talking about a subject which was a computer game that he played. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, you need to come play this game. So I went and I spent time with him. The Beauty and the Beast story that he told me was very different from some of the instances. I believe the stories that he told about Ricky were a little bit embellished. But I'll never forget one particular story that he told me one night. And it had to do with a contractor at the house. where Ricky had brought this poor man to tears. So this guy had done some renovations for them, and let's just say the job was not done up to par. And Rikus phoned me the next day and he said, listen, I know I've told you this before, but I must never disagree with my wife ever again. And I was like, why? And apparently this poor man was like, no, but you need to understand. And Ricky would just stand there and with very German efficiency, his words, not mine, go, yes, but we spoke about point A, point B, point C, point D. Yes, but you must understand that for point A, no, we spoke about point A, point B, point C, and for him, this was just the funniest story ever. I'll never forget that for when Kim fell pregnant with Connor, Rikus was always there to give me advice. He helped with everything, gave me the right, set my head right, told me I was going to be a good father, and he was always there for us. And one of the times that he was most there for us was right when Kim was in labor with the young man. And I don't know how many of you know this, but he'd just been for surgery. So he was sitting on a donut. And after Kim had been in labor for about 3 days, I received this flash message from Rikus that was just on the line of, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. What's happening? When is this baby coming? And he said, oh, wait, no, it's actually a donut that I'm sitting on. Hold on, let me send you a photo. I was like, what? And then the other time was when he was in Germany. He was busy hanging out, walking in a supermarket. We hadn't spoken for a couple of months, which was not abnormal. And I got this photo. He's like, dude, these people are monsters. What are you talking about? And he sent me a photo of Vienna's in a jar. And my next response was, hi dude, how are you doing? He's like, here's one with chopped Viennas in a jar. I was like, oh. But what I will always remember is Rikus was always there with a word of advice. As Mark had said, he valued his intelligence, we valued it as well. And they say hindsight is 20/20. I'm going to miss him. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm a blast from the past with Rikus. Met him in about 2005 and parted ways with him 2017. And in that time, I basically took over a company where he was a software developer. And in that time, I very, very quickly developed a friendship with Rikus. And I was literally blown apart day by day as I watched a self-educated software developer shine into one of the best developers I've ever seen. He's the mentor to my son, who is now an extremely successful software developer, and everything my son learned came from Rikus. Just to give you an idea, the one thing, my wife was shocked by the way Rikus spoke to me as his boss. And I've always explained to my wife that the reason that Rikus stuck with me for 12 years was simply because he was allowed to swear at me every day. We had a very, very rich 12 years together. I went through a whole lot of phases pre-Ricky, where he went through a great amount of pain. He had a lot of issues about his father. I moved Rikus twice from two of the worst dives you've ever seen in your life. He lived almost like an animal for a couple of years. He then inherited his father's house and suddenly gained a little bit of distinction. and he changed. And it's almost like he grew up a little bit and he became more dignified. And it's almost like he was sitting waiting for his wife to arrive into his house. I don't know if everybody knows, and I won't mention it, but he was into some interesting activities. And I believe, and I know I've heard the story about how he met his wife and how he literally sat there tongue-tied and didn't know what to do. And Ricky entered the equation, and Rikus changed again and just became a proper citizen of society, which for him was a big, big reach. And he became a really happy, settled, good guy. And then he became a director of my business. He actually bailed me out twice. And I spent 3 or 4 or 5 years with him, and we built something, and unfortunately, and I blame myself, it didn't work out very well. But the grace that Rikus shared with even how that thing ended, he was just an incredible human being. He always had an enormous wit. He had the most controversial opinions on every single subject, but bright opinions, bright and intelligent and well thought out opinions. He really was a massive brain who thought, and society could have used him more as much as he avoided it. I know that he was a magnificent friend to a lot of people. He was a magnificent friend to me. His mom actually became the mom of my dog. And I unfortunately lost track with Rikus about 7-8 years ago. I literally went into hiding. I was just so freaked out about my business. But once a year, I'd keep in touch with him, and he was always cheerful and always supportive. And as I mentioned, he has continued on the legacy and made sure that my son has become a successful software developer, and I really put that down to Rikus. So he's a great loss in my life. When I heard about him, I was absolutely shattered, and I regret not having spent a lot of time with him in the last few years, but he had a colossal influence on myself and my family. And I miss him, and may God bless him.
Hi everyone. I usually talk a lot. I actually don't have words today. We've spoken about a lot of things, a lot of fun memories, and I was actually in the interview that hired Rikus at Dario. And I remember sitting in the discussion, and we'd always have a question around, like, what do you do for fun? And his answer was caught me so off guard that I just turned around and I just said, it's a done deal. Like, he's going to fit in so well. He's just a phenomenal person. And at the time, I was looking after a few talk series and videos, and I was doing quite a lot of public speaking. And I remember him coming to me and saying, look, if we ever got a chance, he really wanted to help other people manage mental health, and he wanted to help. And we sat and we said, okay, we were going to put together something, and sadly we never got to do that. But since that day, Rikus has become probably one of the closest friends that I never thought I'd have. His kindness and genuine compassion and love for his family touched my entire life. There wouldn't be a day where he wouldn't come and ask how I would do. He'd check in without fail on the smallest things. Things that were irrelevant to others he would care about. I was fortunate enough to have a big event, and I was incredibly anxious about it. Without fail, he would come through and he'd give me pep talks and sit down, and for crying out loud, I was meant to be the manager, but he would manage me instead. He would sit down and tell me, how to think about things differently, and I value that incredibly. The kindness that he had for every single person in the most direct ways. What Rikus taught me is that there is a difference between someone being nice and someone being kind. And if you have a choice, be kind, because you're making a difference even if you don't realize it. The last time I saw him was at his birthday. We absolutely destroyed an entire set of braaibroodjies. They were completely inedible. They were basically charcoal. But despite that, his good humor and his kindness just stood through. We'd put the braaibroodjies on the braai, and the reason they were so burnt is he had a little bench outside, and he was telling me about how this was the bench that while he one day wanted to sit and imagine his life on, this was where his father would sit and how he would want to be there one day. And we got stuck in our conversation. We completely destroyed them, but nevertheless, it was those small moments of kindness and just humor and genuine care that will stay with me forever. And I have no words for the loss that you all are going through. I wish it on no one. But what I will say is that Rikus has made a tremendous effect and a tremendous impact on every single person he dealt with. And you can see it in his family. We will miss him. We'll miss the wild sense of humor. We'll miss the honesty and the genuine openness that he lived his life with. Thank you.
Wow. See? People did like you. We actually loved you, bud. We really, really did. Amazing. Things that I'm hearing today, just amazing. Thank you. Before we finish, I'd just like to say a few thank yous to all of you for being here today. Rikus would be smiling, seeing you all at the same place at the same time. To those that have been instrumental in putting things together and helping out over the last few weeks, thank you. You know who you are. The team at Sonia Smith Funeral Services, you ladies and your teams are absolutely amazing. Hendrik, Peter, thank you guys. Greatly appreciate your help. The staff here at the Rose Garden, thank you for your time and effort. I would like to extend a very particular heartfelt thank you to you, Vic. Vic, your support to Mari, Ricky, the kids is appreciated more than you can possibly realize. During these trying times, they would like you to know that you have been an absolute pillar to them. Thank you for also arranging for us to hold this service here at the Rose Garden. Please join us shortly for tea, coffee, and some snacks. In closing, Rikus, son, husband, father, friend, we love you and we will miss you. And in true Star Wars fashion, may the Force be with you always. Thank you. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, just one very short, quick thing. On the table, just right here in the middle where the lamppost is, there's a memorial book. If you would all like to, please just take a moment, as and when you can, just to fill it in, say what you maybe like to say. Thank you very much.